Dan Bublitz Comedy Productions.
My friend Dan, he's got a podcast, 'cause all comics need a podcast, and nobody had a podcast called The Art of Bombing. So Dan went out and bought a tape deck. Who knows why he bought a tape deck? Podcasts don't get played on tape decks, but Dan is from the 80s. So hey there, all you funny jerks, come talk to Dan about your work. Tell him all about your worst times. It's The Art of Bombing. Welcome to a brand new episode of Between Bombs. Not callbacks this week. That's right. We are not calling back the most recent episode, which was episode 289. And the reason we're not calling it back is because it was a live episode. It was a live recording, and the formats are a little bit different. And we don't really get into a lot of like comedy wisdom per se. It's pretty much they perform stand-up and then they tell a bombing story, and that's about the gist of it. So it's more for entertainment value than getting something you can use in your own comedy career. So that being said, we are still doing a Between Bombs this week. It is a special episode. That's right. We are doing a little episode on scams. Scam alert. That's what's going on. Scams. That's right. That's right. Because I have seen some scams going around. I just got approached by somebody that was a scam. I figured it out, and I wanted to talk about it because it seems like a lot of comedians are getting hit up, and it might not just be comedians. It might be other performers or performing artists. It may be regular artists. I don't know. I just know I've seen a lot of these targeted at comedians. And so I thought, you know what? We should do a special episode and talk about those scams. Let me ask you this, Josh. Have you ever been scammed for comedy stuff?
Can I, if you just give me your credit card number right quick, maybe the last 4 of your social, I'll tell you the answer to that.
I didn't ask if you've scammed somebody. I asked if you've ever been scammed.
This is not the real Josh Shirley. This is a bot Josh.
Oh, this is the
bot co-host. You thought it was real, but it's not. Anyway, that's a quick demonstration for what we're talking about, I think.
That is exactly it. Yeah, bots.
I have absolutely been scammed, not in a sort of comedy setting. It sounds like the examples that we were discussing off air were happening more in the artist community, specifically to you. What I have had happen, and I think this is kind of relates, is I had a Facebook bot show up that was like, hey, I think you had a friend die in an accident. Did you know him? Linked it. Click the link, and here's where they get you. Clicked on it, and it forced me to relog into Facebook. What I didn't realize at the time was that it was a front, like not a real Facebook page. It was a
phishing page.
Phishing page, very nice. Yep. And I entered my credentials and then went in and basically didn't realize that it took my credentials, then used that to relog into my stuff. And
were you able
send
to get
all
your
my friends
back?
the same message?
I
went in and changed the.
Oh, that's good, because there were some scams similar to that, some hacks similar to that, where people weren't even able to get their accounts back. That happened to my fiance. Wow. She got hacked and lost her account altogether. So, and I'm sure people.
Is that because Facebook shuts it down because it thinks you're the hacker, or
no? Because what it was is they used her phone number. That's how they got it. Like they sent a message saying, "Hey," and it was from my dad who got hacked and lost his account too. But he sent a message, "Hey, I need your phone number," and then I lost my phone. I'm going to send you a code. Give me that code. And so what they're doing is they're taking your number, using it for to get in, access your social media account. And then once they get in there, they change all the info so you can't log back in or re-verify that it's you. So, because they need that phone number in order to change to change the info, because without that phone number, you can't change a lot of stuff because of that verification. That's what a lot of social media accounts use your phone number for that, for verifying your info. So that being said, we're not talking about all those scams, but those are good scams to look out for anytime.
Yeah.
And I will say this, just kind of touching on what you're talking about, you should be changing your passwords frequently. That definitely will help reduce getting hacked. But yeah, definitely be on the lookout. Anytime somebody messages you with a link that looks fishy or suspicious, or doesn't talk in the way that they would normally talk to you, even in text, don't click those links, because that's what happens. So, but we're gonna go focus more on these scams that I've seen for targeted at performers, and they're basically phishing scams in a sense. They're either trying to get your financial information, so then they can then hack your bank account and steal from you. And so that's why it's a big deal. And it just sucks, because they're targeting comedians who, for most of us, are desperate, looking for these awesome shows, and we think, oh, this is gonna be an awesome gig, easy gig, I'm going to get all kinds of money. And then suddenly you're out all your money because you got hacked, and and I want to do something about it. So that's why we're doing this episode. The first scam we're going to talk about, that this one actually went around in a couple years ago. It still surfaces now and again. There's different variations of it, but it was a scam that was going around to a lot of comedians, where you would get a message from somebody and they would ask if you do custom videos, comedy videos, and then basically they would say, hey, it's my wife or other loved one's birthday, I'd like to make a comedy video of them being roasted. Can you write roast jokes about, and I'll give you X amount of dollars. It was like, I think I seen different variations, but I think it averaged like $300 to do like a 10-minute video. So of course comics are jumping at this. They're like, yes, I'll do that 10-minute video. That's easy peasy for $300. Well, then what they tell you is that they can only pay you via a certain way. And that's right there. That is a big red flag. Anytime somebody is reaching out to you and wants to hire you for work, and they can only pay one way, and it's typically, using Zelle or some kind of an app, or I'm going to send you a check, and we've all heard those scams that used to go around in emails, where I'll send you a check for X amount of dollars, and then I'm going to pay you more, and then you give me that money extra. Well, then it's a counterfeit check or some bogus thing like that. Same kind of concept, where, so anytime they won't accept your payment terms, whatever you may be, like for instance, I accept PayPal, I accept checks. A lot of times though, this is what I do. If I don't know the company, if it's especially in this situation where somebody tried to scam me just recently, I would require a money order or a certified bank check, because that's basically like a money order, but it's just through the bank. And then I accept my Venmo and PayPal. And, and some instances, I think I can do credit card. But either way, those are my payment options. If a customer or a client hits me up and they say, oh, I can't pay that way, this is the only way I can pay you, I'm pretty sure it's a red flag. Because most businesses, they're going to have credit cards, they're going to have checking accounts, they're going to have a payment process too. A lot of times when they hire entertainment for especially corporate gigs, this is something that is getting expensed out. They're probably creating a PO. They're creating, you're going to create an invoice for them, and there's going to be a whole procedure that you do as a business, doing it's basically called business to business. So those are things that you need to look out for. So if somebody approaches you and they say that they can only pay you this way, they're being real, vague about the company and things like that, probably a good indication that it's a scam. We'll also say with that too, another way you can tell is just, again, kind of how they talk. Are they talking like a real person, Or does it sound very robot-y? Because that's a lot of what it is. It's bots fishing for your information, so then somebody can hack your accounts and steal from you. Another red flag with these kind of situations is just being approached on Facebook Messenger and Instagram Messenger. A lot of times, companies, if they're going to hire you for a corporate event, they're not going through Instagram or Facebook to hire you. I will say I have been hired for some events through Facebook, more so Facebook than Instagram. But if a company is reaching out through one of those, they're probably not a real company, because most companies are going to research. They're going to go on Google. They're going to find your information, and then they're going to contact you directly. Or if you have management or agent of some sort, they're going to contact them. Or if you get one of these, somebody hits you up through one of these, the first thing I always do, I say, yes, I can, I'm available to do whatever gig. Here's my email. Let's talk through there. Now, this scam that just happened to me last week. And again, I didn't get caught. They didn't get to scam me. In fact, I was the one that won when it was all said and done. But did find out it was going around to a lot of comedians. So it starts out, it was a reply to one of my reels. And they just said, hey, are you available for corporate gigs? Of course, I said yes. And then they said, where are you located? I said, I'm in the Denver area. And then suddenly all the information that they had was catered to Denver. And I immediately say, hey, yeah, I can do this, but I do my booking through, contact me through my email. And then they did. We talked a little bit on Instagram.
Interesting.
They sent me a contract through
That's
my email.
the part where I thought it might break down on you, is in that moment there where I feel like not as many things are going to get through that net right there.
Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of what I thought. But then I got the contract and I thought, okay, well, this is odd. Well, one thing that, you got to look for different things. One thing I did is, we talk about this all the time when it comes to like, submitting to festivals, taking comedy classes, all this stuff. Do your due diligence. And that's immediately what I did. So they give me the venue where it's going to be. The venue is, it has a Mexican name. Okay. It's basically a Mexican or Hispanic event center. Not saying that their corporate event couldn't be held there, but it was a little suspicious that this big company was going to be doing a big event at a small venue. So I called the venue. They had no record of any kind of a corporate event. In fact, what they did have was a quinceanilla at that night. So it was a private family thing. Okay. Right. Then I called the company that they were claiming they were booking for, and they didn't have any clue. They're like, no, if we were going to hire any kind of entertainment, we're not going through your Instagram. And I said, I know that. I figured. I just, I'm doing my due diligence. I said, I'm pretty sure this is a scam. I'm just verifying some information before I proceed. And they totally understood. Nice. I did. So on the contract, it said Icon Concerts, which is a real company. I did try calling them, but I didn't get no answer. So I don't know if they are a real company or if that's a front. Not sure on all that. But on their website, they do a lot of shows with some big time. They have shows with Joe Coy, shows with Gabriel Iglesias. And so like they had some big names on there and like upcoming shows. So then probably a real company, and this hacker's just using a contract that they found on Google, and they're just changing the info, and that's another reason I was suspect. When I got the contract, I read through the contract, and at the very end of it, you could tell it was a template, because it said, this is a binding contract and instead of saying Colorado, it had in parentheses, your state. So they didn't change it to my actual state. Another red flag that I saw in the contract is that the contract date was for the date of the show, not the date we're signing the contract. Anytime you sign a contract, the contract date is going to be, you're signing it, whatever day you sign it, that's the date that you're going into contract with your client. Whether the event is 2 weeks, 6 months, whatever down the road, the day you sign that contract, that's when you're going into contract with them. So that was another thing that I found suspicious about the whole scenario. So I did my due diligence. I knew it was a scam. I didn't realize that until after I posted about it that a bunch of other comedians were getting the same scam. But I replied back to this person, and another thing that you should look at too is look at the profile. I did. This profile didn't have, it was set to private, didn't have a lot of posts, didn't have a lot of followers, wasn't following a lot of people. Another red flag was when I got the contract, the name on the email for the Gmail was like Kenny something, and the IG account was Brandon. So the names didn't match up either. So like red flag, red flag, red flag. But anyway, once I figured out it was probably a scam, I replied back. I said, these are my payment options that I said, unfortunately, I don't take digital checks. These are my payment options. If that doesn't work for you, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to pass on this gig. Well, then I posted about all this, and then I got a message a couple days later from that account saying, "Oh, this is unfortunate. You're a bastard." Said for posting this on Facebook, and then it said you're not something about you're not going to save everyone. And then I reported that. And then I reported that Instagram account, and it got pulled from Instagram. So
you can't save them all, dude.
It was very
evil.
Very super villainy after.
Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, it's wild, but that's what happens sometimes in comedy. You get these scams. I mean, obviously, it's the same thing, not just with like online. I mean, you can get scammed, at shows and stuff, and even through your email or whatever. That's why you just got to be careful. You got to do your due diligence. Make sure you're asking all the right questions. Like I said, we talk about that all the time on this podcast about doing your due diligence. Ask all the questions, get all the information so you can best protect yourself and you know what you're getting into. I mean, and there's times where you'll show up to a gig and, I haven't heard of this happening as frequently now, especially with social media. It's harder for bookers to get away with this where, you'll go to a venue and they won't pay you because they didn't sell tickets, and that's not your fault. They still got to pay you, and they don't want you because they didn't do their marketing right. Well, now that's one benefit of social media and being able to talk with other comedians and everything, is that you can really blast and blackball bookers, producers, and venues when they do shady stuff like that. So then other comedians won't work with those people in places. So yeah. All right. Well, do you have anything to add to this, the scams?
No, I think it's very responsible, and I love the idea of doing this episode. Like, this specific scam hasn't happened to me personally, but I'm sure
good for you.
It's happened to other people, and
it has.
They need to know about it.
They absolutely do. And I'm going to do just real quick. I am going to do a quick breakdown of red flags, just kind of to sum it up. I'm just pulling up my notes that I had about it because I want to make sure, we're, kind of going in order. I've kind of been all over the place, which I am sometimes. So these are indicators that you're probably being scammed. Just kind of some things that I noticed when I was going through this. 1, the user account set to private. 2, the email address didn't match the info on the Instagram account. They used an odd use of wording. They could only pay their way. They didn't change the state to Colorado in the contract template. They used the date of the event, not the date of the contract, or for the contract. So that's just some kind of indicators that you're being scammed. Things that I did, to prevent it, obviously. 1, I asked a lot of questions. 2, I called the venue and asked if they had an event like that booked. They did not. I called the client to verify. They had no idea what this was. I researched Icon Concerts. Like I said, it looked like they were a legit company and that this hacker probably just found their contract online. I don't think they are involved in this at all. However, they did not call me back. And then I made it clear what my payment methods were. And if they didn't accept my terms, then we couldn't work together. And that's just how it was going to be. So that's kind of a sum and a recap. And then I'm going to pull up and I will read you word for word what they said when
Oh my dude,
yeah.
this is
So my response was, that's unfortunate, as that doesn't align with my payment methods. I said that I receive. Thanks for thinking of me, but I'm going to pass. And then got a response. You're a bastard. Do you know? Well, thanks for the post on Facebook, but you can't save everybody. Ha ha ha. Laugh face fool.
wow.
I know. And then, like I said, then I reported them to Instagram, and their account got pulled from Instagram. So,
That is
but I'm
insane,
sure they're
dude.
still, because I seen other comedians posting about this similar scam, but it was coming from different Instagram accounts. So, yeah, but it's pretty much the same verbiage, word for word. Um, Kind of, yeah, just copy paste lingo. And real quick, I am going to read too just the first message just to help people out. So if you receive a message like this on Instagram, Facebook, it's probably the same scam, and you should just report the account right away and avoid all the hassle of going through wasting your time messaging them. So they replied to one of my reels, and it just said, "Hey, are you available for booking? We'd love to have you perform at our corporate event. Let me know." That's how it started. And then, of course, then they just had a bunch of questions. Where are you located? You know, then once I said I was available, I was in Colorado. Then they said, "I hope this message finds you well. I'm writing to inquire about your availability rates for a corporate event that we are hosting in Denver. Our company has an annual event that brings together all our employees from around the country to celebrate our achievements and set goals for the upcoming year. This year, we're looking to add some entertainment." So that's basically the gist of it. If you get a message like that in your inbox, either on Facebook or on Instagram or any social media, you're probably being phished, and it's not a legit deal anyway. So, keep an eye out there. Another quick little tip before we get out of here is, when you see these kind of things, spread the word. Post in the Facebook groups, and let other comics, let your peers know that this is
Yeah.
going on, so that one of your peers doesn't fall for this. Because one thing I didn't, until I posted about it, I didn't see anything in any of these groups. And then people were commenting on my posts in these groups where I posted it, and were like, "Oh yeah, I got that last week. I got that the other day. Oh really? How come you're not
Yep.
sharing this information?"
Yep.
We need to
Well, a lot of people,
work together.
yeah, they find a dead end, and they don't necessarily even connect the dots that it's a scam. They're just like, okay, somebody's messing with me here. This isn't really global. It's not happening to a lot of people,
Yep.
and they just move on.
Absolutely. All right. Well, we hope this episode of Between Bombs was informative and helpful. Again, if you have ever, if you have any questions, you can hit us up on the social medias, Art of Bombing Pod. Don't slide into our DM, though, to offer us a gig. We know better. Or you can shoot us an email at theartofbombingpod@gmail.com. Make sure you like, subscribe, wherever you're listening to this podcast. Come talk to us in the Facebook group, do all the things. All that information is in the links down below in the show notes. Until next week, we'll be back next week with a regular episode, and next week again with another regular episode of Between Bombs Callback. So we'll see you then. Have a great week.
Bye.
This has been a Dan Bublitz comedy production. Roar.